You're listening to Cornhole Champions. I'm Zachary Oren Smith. I'm sitting here with Iowa starting lines Amie Rivers and Avery Staker. Second story, U.S. Representative Zach Nunn was supposed to have an event in Jefferson, Iowa, only seemingly at the last minute. He made it invitation only. I filed this video. Here's a question. What happens when the person elected to represent you is afraid to meet with you? Right about now, Representative Zach Nunn is holding a meeting in Jefferson, Iowa. The local press wrote about how he was holding a town hall. This would have been a big deal since it would have been the first public town hall since he got elected. But pretty soon after I tweeted that news out, the article got an update. Now it's a private event. I'm Zachary Oren Smith. I write about politics for Iowa Starting Line, and this isn't about one congressman dodging tough questions. This is about a system that's working exactly as designed. Like most Iowans, you've probably noticed a surge in protests across the nation. People are pissed. People are pissed about cuts to Medicaid and food assistance. They're pissed about civil rights being taken away from Iowans. They're pissed about tax breaks for millionaires. Tax breaks, mind you, that managed to raise the national deficit, that thing I've got to stop chuckling in videos. About. And what's been Nunn's response? To hide, to close the door on his constituents. This year, House Republicans' campaign chief literally told GOP lawmakers to stop holding public town halls. Your representatives are being ordered by their party to avoid the very people that they were elected to represent. And Nunn took this advice to heart, calling town halls, quote, taxpayer-funded protest events, as if hearing from angry constituents is somehow illegitimate. The reality is Nunn does listen to some part of his constituency. He listens to the PACs that raised 36% of his campaign funds, according to reports. And he listens to the large donors who raised another 40% of his funds. Donors like Walmart, BlackRock, Allstate, Aflac, Visa, Bank of America, AT&T, Goldman Sachs, Verizon, Capital One, Humana, MasterCard, Comcast, Toyota, Microsoft, American Express, Berkshire Hathaway, Lockheed Martin, T-Mobile, Exxon, and Delta Airlines. Shout out to stock in the Capitol. When a top Republican tells you not to hold public town halls in your district, you don't hold public town halls. When President Donald Trump called and told Nunn to abandon his governor's race and defend his competitive seat in Congress, Nunn asked how high. Because that's how the system works. The powerful tell the less powerful what to do, and if you like being in power, you do what they say. Last night, I was at a public event for Rob Sand as part of his governor campaign. This was something like his 46th town hall for the campaign. Was everyone in the audience friendly? No. Did people like all of his answers? No. But he showed up because the democracy only works when we show up. But Zach Nunn's of the world, he says he prefers, quote, policy-focused meetings, which sounds nice until you realize those meetings are invitation only. Big donors, devoted party loyalists, corporate interests. It's a crowded room inside, only you aren't in it. They don't want you asking why your healthcare costs keep rising while insurance companies get richer. They don't want you to question why your wages stay flat while corporate profits soar. They certainly don't want to listen to you connect those dots in public. They might just have to answer for it. So they retreat to private events with hand-picked audiences. They call public accountability protests. They turn democracy into a members-only club. This should tell you something about what they mean when they say that they prefer policy-focused meetings. It's that their policy is to do them without you. Lol. Lol. Yeah, so that was our video. Looking at Zach Nunn's issue showing up to voters. Something like 304 events that his campaign claims that he's had within his district, open to the public. Meanwhile, it doesn't appear that any of them have been advertised ahead of time. And if you got a question for Zach Nunn and you aren't an immediate donor, good luck getting it answered. I know I haven't. What do you did you guys follow this? Do you think this? Do you have a sense of whether or not this matters?
Well, Zach Nunn's my representative. I'm in his district, and I mean one thing that was kind of shady to me is that he announced the town hall to be in Jefferson, which is over an hour away from where the majority of his constituency is in Des Moines. And you'd think if you were hosting like your first town hall of your elected career. you would want it to be like somewhere where more people in your constituency could be, and in that case that would be Des Moines, but he did not have it there. But it's also like the whole like taxpayer funded protest event is such a intentional choice of words that is really disturbing to me, because instead of like, the point is them to be for the taxpayer. Like, they're taxpayer funded because they're supposed to be places that like taxpayers can show up and be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing with my tax money that I'm giving you? Like, that's the point of democracy, essentially, like you said in the video, that like your financial status doesn't exclude you from having access to your elected representatives. But instead of like showing up for the people that elect you, specifically speaking to Zach Nunn, it's like he's holding taxpayer-funded private meetings with an entry fee of $1,000 campaign donation. That's that's wrong. That's, in my opinion. I don't know if that's how other people see it, apparently, but
yeah, you're basically just asking. So if you're going to these events, like as press, you're noticing that like these people are just talking to business owners and things like that. So when you're just talking to business owners, you're only getting the business owner perspective. You're only finding out what a business owner needs and doesn't need, and not what, a nurse needs or a teacher needs, or, someone that doesn't own a business needs. Like the majority of your constituency, what they need, you're sort of missing out when you do these meetings, and it becomes very insular. And so then even if you take the money out of it, you're only listening to, those folks. And of course you're going to vote accordingly. So it's just this self-perpetuating bad cycle.
And in like Republicans' case, they're the ones that are, protecting corporate interests. So it becomes this like echo chamber of just like corporate interest of like, you're doing wonderful things so that I can be rich and make more money as I'm rich. Whereas the, people like us, people like, our audience, people that listen to this podcast are like they're not being heard.
We don't have a rich audience, right, Zach?
Oh, I got a bunch of millionaires that
Harry Stein is listening right now.
They slid dollars into my pocket. That's actually why do you think I'm talking about this? The millionaires and the billionaires.
These microphones don't pay for themselves.
Right. But I think just to put a fine point on it, right? When this line about taxpayer-funded protest event like hits me wrong, because when did protest become kind of like the wrong kind of speech, the wrong kind of feedback?
Also
like,
that.
Right. Like I there's this like notion that by virtue of it being from a protester, you hear this rhetoric when when Joni Ernst got confronted by the candidate who's running. Amie, remind me of the name of the candidate that's running in, I think it's Northeast Iowa.
Yeah, India May. India
May, right? When India May confronted Joni Ernst about this, and the celebrated "well, we're all going to die" line, the way she responded was like that was these were protesters that were kind of invading our good little town hall event. But like the reality is why is the speech of a protester any less valuable, right? Like why don't we care about folks that are motivated to show up and feel very strongly about the topic du jour, right? Like why is one speech more valuable than the other? Do you know what I'm saying?
Because protesters are being contrarian to what, what the Republicans want.
I mean, they're annoying, right? Like, I get it. I live in Iowa City. There are tons of protests all the time. We love protests in this town, right? Like, first thing you got to know. I've covered a lot of them. And protests are annoying, right? Just, I think, from a firmament. I mean that, I don't necessarily mean that derogatory. I mean that, like, in the way that, like, that's the kind of the work that they're able to do, is they forced you to kind of have to grapple with an issue, whether or not you intended to at the farmer's market or not. Right. That's part of the thing. This is baked into the democracy process. Right. And when we begin saying valuing certain speech over others, right, certain kinds of speakers over others, I mean, I think that gets us into into the problem that we have today.
There's a really good way to not get people to protest, and that's not do things that people protest. You know what I mean? That's put simply, I think.
Conceptually challenging. I'll think on it.
Yeah.
I'll think on it. And Zach Nunn's not the only person avoiding these town halls, right? We mentioned Mariannette Miller Meeks in the cold open. She's another one of these that has like resisted kind of the need for public town halls. She heeded top campaign officials for the GOP's message that, don't hold these public town halls, go virtual, go long distance, do what you can to keep yourself within arms, at an arm's reach from that potentially angry constituent, right? Meanwhile, other Republicans have. I mean, like Joni Ernst did hold public town halls. Ashley Henson did hold public town halls. In some ways, right, like when you don't show up, to some extent, like I kind of think of this almost in like the metaphor I'd use is like hygiene, right? This is not something you do because it's going to be the thing that is going to make the most value for your career. It's not the thing that is going to like really propel you to the next decision, right? But you do it because it's just good to hear from your constituents. It's just good to get into your district and go talk to people, right? And hear from people and to allow people to ask questions in these formats. It's hygiene, and when you the longer it takes you to do it, the stankier the stankier your reception is going to be. And right now, it's pretty damn stanky.
Are you calling Republicans stinky?
They haven't showered.
Stinky, smelly,
Derogatory.
dirty, stinky, derogatory.
And while we're talking about Nunn, I think it's important to talk about what's at stake. Nunn's MIA status wasn't missed by his opponents in the Democratic primary for 2026. State Senator Sarah Garriott said, and I quote, "We need elected leaders who will show up. We need folks who aren't afraid to come gather with the community and show up and listen and learn from what's in the minds and hearts of our members of our community." And then I had this video. Former House Minority Leader Jennifer Kahn first posted this video.
As soon as he started hearing that people were coming, he said, "Oh no, it's a private meeting." So the meeting went from public to private. The opportunity went from big to non-existent, and voters lose out.
Town halls used to be as routine as county fairs for politicians. When your congressman calls them, quote, taxpayer-funded protests, that tells you something about who he thinks he's working for. If you can't face your constituents when they're upset, maybe the problem isn't them. And with that, let's take a break.